Hello, I'm Lisa Bentley. Welcome to our first program of You're the Voice. Today we'll be introducing two people. They are both mothers who have a story to tell. The reason why I've started this show is I feel as though everyday people are not being heard. Unfortunately, they aren't able to use their voice in the current situation that we're living in. And I'm in a position to give them that voice. So today is our first show, and I hope that it helps you understand where people may be coming from in the current pandemic, particularly in Victoria, where we've had to endure one of the worst lockdowns in the world. Thank you for your time and patience, and I look forward to many more. Hello, how are you, Jess?
Not bad. As good as we can be, I guess.
Thank you so much for joining us today's show, our very first You're the Voice program. The reason why this show has been started is to give people like you a voice in the community in terms of understanding where you're coming from and what your journey has been like during the last 18 months in lockdown Melbourne. I understand that you're a mother.
Yep.
Yep. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of how, who you are and what you're thinking and a bit about your background, please?
So I'm a mother of two. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. Um, basically from the western suburbs of Melbourne. As you all know, our stories here have been quite extreme. Never did I think I'd be living in such times. And also one of the most locked down cities in the world. Never did I expect this to happen in my lifetime or my daughter's lifetime, to be honest. I think none of us expected it. In terms of where we're at, my partner and I run our own business in construction, and we've been blessed enough to have had work throughout this whole thing, and I've done my part to try and help others throughout this pandemic, financially as much as I can. However, then never did I think what's such a mental impact it has taken on people, I guess, such as myself and many others.
Yeah. Can you tell me, as a mother, how you currently feeling, particularly about the lockdowns and how that may be affecting you and your children?
Mm-hmm. Um, in regards to that, well, my daughter started prep this year, so this is her first year, and what a ride it's been for her. In and out lockdown, it's definitely taken a toll on her. And not only that, I've never been one to really complain or have issues or um, with like the schooling system or anything like that. However, this year I've found myself to be questioning the school. They're just taking extreme measures that don't need to be taken. That I feel like that it's impacting our children mentally more so. Some of the measures they're taking, such as now they're locking parents out of my daughter's school. It's a brand new school. I think there's only 100 and something students, mainly grade preps, who weren't allowed inside the buildings, which is fine. However, we were told that we're no longer allowed even on site. Now, these
My
schools have,
gosh. So you're
yeah.
telling me you weren't allowed on site
Mm-hmm.
at your child's school who's in prep? You weren't
Yeah,
allowed to basically wave goodbye to
no,
your 5-year-old before they went to school.
no. We were allowed to drop them at the gate, hand them over, and that was it. And my daughter's quite a shy, anxious child, and she's only got used to her teacher. Now, however, they were just, basically we were expected to give them to the whoever's at the gate that day, and just hand them over. And this just didn't sit well with me. So obviously I questioned it, and it just wasn't okay. And to me, going on school grounds, it's no difference. Like it's a huge yard.
That's
It's
right. And it's
it doesn't.
outdoors, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
There's just
so
no
we
logic
know
behind the decision.
that's right. That we know that
Yeah,
you're safe outdoors.
yeah.
Were there other parents in your school feeling the same way, or were you alone in your concerns?
I do feel there was a lot more parents that felt the same way. I seen some children that were quite distressed when getting dropped off and things like that.
Yeah,
Um, However, I feel like these parents are quite reluctant to speak up and be a voice for
yeah,
their children, and not also, knowing the impacts of what it can do later on. Like these are just simple things that schools, they're making these decisions for themselves.
yeah.
When I questioned and I said, um, what is your basically what is your logic behind this decision? And she was all I got was that it was a Department of Education. So yep, I contacted them and they said it's basically the school's discretion as to how they put their COVID safe plans through. However, they hadn't done this all year at this school, and we were fine. And then all of a sudden, it was like, bam, they just done it for. There was just no logic behind it. So basically, this school, it's huge. Like we weren't even near each other going on school grounds to drop our child at the door, like grade prep, that had
Yeah.
been struggling the year before in kinder, which was she was hardly in kinder the year before, struggling already, and then having to be thrown into grade prep in and out, and then next minute parents can't even emotionally be there for their children to take them and even access the school grounds. Like this school was closed like a fortress. The
Wow.
office is locked constantly. You basically have to stand at the and the gates are that big, like you couldn't even jump them. Like, how am I meant to access my child unless you tell me that I can? Um, that's not on. These are our
No,
children.
that's
They don't have
correct.
authority over our children.
Yep. I
You
agree with you
know?
100%, Jess. And the interesting thing about this is, I mean, I have teenagers, um, and I remember when they first started school, when they were 5 years old, and they had gone from going to kindergarten a couple of times a week to going to full-time school. And even at the start, they only gradually let children go to school because they know
Mm-hmm.
about that separation anxiety. So I can
Mm-hmm.
only imagine how much anxiety both parents and children were feeling
Mm-hmm.
at 5 years old,
Yeah.
with the pandemic hanging over their head, and on top of that, the school implementing even more rules that would
Yeah.
basically add to the heightened anxiety of parents and children. I mean, even
Mm-hmm.
when my children went to school, there were quite a few children in 5 years old used to cry when their parents left them.
Yeah.
And, we were told by the teachers to just say goodbye at the gate and let the
Mm-hmm.
teachers take them into the classroom so they could get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Let alone with what is currently going on in the world and how that is absolutely affecting everybody. I
Yeah.
don't think the children are being shielded at all.
Mm-hmm. No, there's just like behind the decision, that just didn't sit well with me at all. I'm thinking if this school can do this and not have a second thought about these children's mental health, what else are they going to do?
Yeah.
Um, I don't trust them. I don't trust them at all. It's got to that point.
Wow.
I have now registered her. Long story short, I've registered her for homeschool now, and I'll be pulling her out, and I'll be homeschooling her until I feel it's safe enough for her to return. If I can't access my child um, whenever I need to, it's just not good enough.
So, can you tell me a little bit about the process of homeschooling for those parents that may also be like you, feeling anxious about their
Mm-hmm.
5-year olds going to school on their own without any parental consent, and your reasons
Mm-hmm.
behind taking such a drastic step, Jess?
Yeah, it was a huge decision for me, but you know what? The it outweighed, like the taking her out, just it outweighed everything, like my mental health as well. I was not coping, not knowing that I can't access my child at any time. Like they had the doors locked. Literally, parents would go to the office for something, and they'd literally throw you a bone like a dog. Like the office lady would come there, and they don't even like come. Oh, come through, and we'll help you out inside. Oh no, no, it's at the door, and that's it. Like you can't even walk in there. Like That's
So you
not,
couldn't access
they're just not
your
transparent.
child's classroom at all,
No,
for
we
any
would not allow to
reason.
go back on there. No. So how am I to know what they're doing in that classroom if I can't see what you're doing?
Exactly. And today's day and age,
Is this Australia?
pedophilia. Well,
You know?
exactly. Is it Australia? Is this free country? That's the
Mm-hmm,
question being asked right now. And
mm-hmm,
pedophilia is also something that has been highlighted in the news quite a lot recently,
mm-hmm,
throughout the world, not
mm-hmm.
just here in Australia. So I can imagine some
And
of your concerns around taking your 5-year-old into a school and not being able to access her for the
mm-hmm,
whole day, or even being able to walk in the school.
yeah, yeah. It just, yeah, there's no logic behind the decision, and that didn't sit well enough with me. And basically, we had emails back and forth. I explained my frustrations and my concerns.
Oops.
Um, the last email I received was basically pretty much, I've answered your question. If you were to basically keep writing to us, we're going to archive, like pretty much ignore your questions and concerns as a parent, and we won't be answering you if it's the same questions.
So who was this written
From the
by?
principal.
From the principal of
Principal.
the school.
Yep.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh. Okay.
Yep.
And in terms of your email, was it just from you, Jess, or was it from other parents that were concerned?
Myself. It was
Just
myself
yourself. Okay.
on my
Okay.
own. Yeah, and my
Okay.
partner.
So I sense that part of the reason why they treated you like that is because, power in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
it may have gone a different pathway had you had a
Mm-hmm.
few other parents on board with you.
Yep.
But that beside the point. This is about
Mm-hmm.
your child. This is about her well-being,
Mm-hmm.
and this is about her safety.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
clearly, you weren't feeling she was in a safe place in her own school.
Mm-hmm. So basically, in regards to homeschooling her, all I had to do is submit a plan through an application through. I think it's the
The
so if it,
Department of Education, maybe?
yeah, basically, but like there's a website called HEN, basically Home Education Network, and they give you. That was the first resource I went to, and they were just amazing. They went and there's a step-by-step guide as to how to apply and who to apply to, which is through the Department of Home Education, like homeschooling. Um, so it's been yeah, they've been great help, and I've applied and waiting for my response. So I just can't wait, and like I'm feeling anxious because I think our children might be going back next week, and I do not feel safe with her returning to school whatsoever.
Okay. You do realise that as the parent, you don't have to send her back to school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, she's your child, and
Yeah.
you've applied for homeschooling, so you know, you have your rights
Mm-hmm.
in terms of not sending her back to school.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you feeling so nervous about school starting next week?
Yeah, basically that. I do not want her to set foot back in there. I don't trust them anymore. I never did. I think I'd feel this way. I was like so excited for her to be at school and
Mm,
start, this new um, chapter in her,
yeah,
beginning in her life. And never did I think I'd have to do this. But I'll do anything to protect my child and my children. And
yeah,
yeah, don't trust them whatsoever.
yeah. And you're her parent. You're the person that
Mm-hmm.
brought her into the world, and you know what? We'll always protect with our cubs as the
Mm-hmm.
mother
Mm-hmm.
lion, and I think you should be really
Mm-hmm.
proud of the steps you've taken to
Yeah.
protect your daughter, Jess, at this time, because it is a
Yeah.
very unstable time in our lives for all of us.
Yeah.
And in terms of what's been going on,
Mm-hmm.
I completely understand why you've chosen to take this pathway.
Yeah.
So moving forward, are you waiting now for the response?
Yep.
Who are you waiting on?
Basically, the Department of Education for homeschooling. Just a response. It usually takes about 28 days. So just I'm waiting a few more. I think another week or so, and I should have a response. And I just cannot wait. I cannot wait. Yeah, don't
Are
trust
you
them at all.
concerned about sacrificing your, you know, for instance, your work daily, if you're going to be
Hmm.
homeschooling, what are some of the
Hmm.
requirements? What are some of the hoops you had to jump to apply and hopefully get approved for this process of homeschooling your child?
Yep, it's actually not as big of a process as you'd think. It's actually just basically putting your application through, birth certificate or anything to show that you are the parent,
Yep.
and then basically putting a plan together to show that you are quite capable of educating your child in different, like say English, and then you just fill out, and it gives you, like I told you on Home Education Network, they're the best. They've got step-by-step guide, and they've also got examples on there from other children as to how to fill it out, and it's that simple. And you send it through and wait for your response.
Okay. So we'll make sure we put a link to the Home Education Network
Yeah.
with this video,
Mm-hmm.
Jess,
Mm-hmm.
for those parents that may be also questioning and concerned about
Mm-hmm.
the safety of their children in school at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
So before you go, I know your children are quite young. It's probably not a concern of yours, the vaccination. But can I get your views on that at the moment as a parent?
Yeah, that's deep down, that's another concern. And I um, really, maybe part of my decision as to why I brought her out, actually. Um,
Really?
now that I found, yeah, now that I found out that 12-year-olds can now give consent, as they're considered, what are they considered as mature minors,
Wow.
um, to possibly give consent to, have their vaccination at school without parents' approval. That concerns me. And it's like, how far will they keep pushing that? So, and I know that the vaccinations have been approved for, I think, 6 years or 5 years plus now, has it? For Pfizer, maybe. I'm not sure what brand it was, but
Well, I know
it's
it's
getting,
still
they're
considered,
pushing it.
yeah, I know it's still
Yeah.
considered a, a trial. We're in the trial periods
Mm-hmm.
of this
Mm-hmm.
experimental vaccine.
Yeah.
So,
And then there was that school in, what was it, New South Wales, was it, where 100 and something students were accidentally given the vaccination at school. Um,
I remember
you
seeing
know,
something
I
about that.
don't trust. Yeah, there's just too many. There's too many. I'd say coincidences. That, yeah, I don't know. I do not trust the system at the moment.
And what about your own mental health throughout this period, Jess, as a mother and as just a young woman living in these
Mm-hmm.
times? Can you tell me what sort of journey you've been on? Because we know that mental health is the real epidemic,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in Victoria right now.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what kind of experiences you've had in that area with your mental health?
Um, yeah, definitely been struggling myself.
Yeah, I can
Yeah, up and
sense it.
down. Yeah, it's a roller coaster. Like I wake up every day, don't know what it's going to be like, but I try and, you know, at least I try and go for a walk or just something to release the anxiety and
Tension
stresses
and
of every
anxiety.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah, um, and try my best, but I'm doing what I can to fight, I guess, my own demons,
yeah,
like
yeah,
everyone through this time, and help
yeah,
everyone, other people when I can. Um,
yeah,
it's been a struggle. It's been a roller coaster.
yeah. I'm hearing you, Jess. And
Mm-hmm.
the truth is, a lot of people are struggling with their mental health throughout this period because we've never known our freedoms to be ripped away from
Mm-hmm.
us the way they have been. And in terms of positive psychology, life is about positive experiences, it's about friendships, it's about
Mm-hmm.
connections, it's about meaning and purpose. And a lot of that has been ripped away
Mm-hmm.
from us, which is causing a lot of these mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I myself have struggled, and I am a mental health therapist,
Mm-hmm.
So the truth is, I think at this time, the best thing we can do for ourselves, I just have three, I guess, antidotes that I
Mhm.
use and that I recommend other people to use if they're struggling with their mental health. One is to switch off from mainstream media and
Yep.
channels because they're all in it for sensationalism and ratings.
And I must say that's the first thing I done early last year actually, and what a difference it made to me. Um,
Yep, I know, it's
Sometimes if I just say if
incredible.
I'm, happen to come across it and it comes on, you just feel the negativity coming out of the TV. Like it's unreal. Like when you stop watching it and you start living your best way you can here, you realize the difference. To be honest, like I asked the question to a lot of people, would you even know there's a pandemic if you weren't watching the news? Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
mhm.
And it's not just watching the news, it's switching off from major newspapers, all those sort of things as well.
Yeah.
And also, even social media, I think we need a
Hmm.
break from that as well because there's so
Hmm.
much information and misinformation
Yes.
that comes out that can create anxiety and fear and put
Hmm.
us in that flight, fight response.
Hmm.
So, definitely my first point of call is switch off from that
Yes.
mainstream media. The second thing you do
100%.
is focus in on your own circle of F and F, which is your family and friends.
Hmm.
So what I mean by that is try and focus on what you can control. You have young children, you are probably a wife, and you said you're a business owner. So focus on
Mm.
those things as your world and appreciate those little things right now because the wider
Yeah.
world is not accessible. So
No.
just focus on what you can control to
Hmm.
to make your world as best as you can. And the way you do that is by doing what I call the little things that make you happy. So everyone's different. For example, I like bubble baths. I like to listen to, retro 80s music. It takes me back to my youth and it
Hmm.
puts a smile on my face. So it's about what works for you. Everyone's individual, and that's about knowing yourself,
Hmm.
you know. And the third thing is breathe.
Hmm. Oh, I need some help with that.
Just breathe. Focus on your breath. There's meditation, there's mindfulness, there's apps, there's so many resources to
Hmm.
help you remember to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and remember you are safe and
Hmm.
you are okay and everything is going to be okay. And you've got to remember to be your own best friend and give
Hmm.
yourself those tips, Jess.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely need to hear that. um, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Hmm.
I really do appreciate it. Thank you for joining this first You're the Voice show,
Hmm.
which was named after the infamous Johnny Farnham song You're the Voice, which is all about
Hmm.
standing up for your rights
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
being brave.
Yeah.
Make a noise and make it clear. And that's what
Yeah.
this program's all
And
about.
yeah, it's amazing. And I believe that's what's happening now. I'm seeing so many brave, teachers, and hence the reason I'm wearing white today is because there is going to
Me too.
be a silent protest around Australia tomorrow, and it's called hashtag Reclaim the Line. And this is for all the workers that don't want to be coerced and forced into this vaccine and want to just live their life. And they're so brave, and I'm so proud of each and every one of them. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Jess. Please take care of yourself and keep doing what you're doing. It's brave Australians like you we need to hear more from.
Hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. We are about to have a chat with a lovely lady. Her name is Marjorie, and she is a mother and somebody who has also been mentally challenged through this time in Victoria. Welcome, Marjorie. Welcome, Marjorie. Thank
Hi,
you.
Lisa.
Hello. Thank you for agreeing to join this first program. We've just heard from one lady who has her own story in terms of how she's been coping with the lockdowns and some of the mandates and how it's affected her and her family. I appreciate you joining us. Marjorie,
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
you're welcome. So Marjorie comes from the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, and Marjorie also has a story to tell in terms of how the restrictions and lockdowns have affected her as a resident in Melbourne. How are you, Marjorie? And please feel free to talk about your experiences as we move forward.
I'm feeling okay. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for asking. Look, where do I start? It's been over 18 months. We've been saying 18 months, but it's been more than that now. So 18 months was back in, I think, was it July? June, July. So it's well over 18 months.
Yes, it
And
has.
we don't see the end of it. That's the thing. But look, it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy, I would have to say. So it's been for the family as well, and I have a 20-year-old, a young adult. He's 20. He's just turned 20 this year. And he feels like his all life has stopped.
So you're telling me that your 20-year-old child, is it a son or a daughter?
Son. Is Liam. His name is.
Your 20-year-old son, Liam, has had some perhaps mental health issues throughout this pandemic.
Yes, correct.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that and what you're seeing in terms of the changes in him, and whether you feel he's coping?
Well, I think like everybody else, we coped a little bit. At the start, we didn't know what it was, okay? And we didn't know how long it was going to take. We said 2 weeks to, what did we say? 2 weeks to
Flatten the curve.
flatten the curve. That's the word. Thanks, Lisa. And then there we are, over 18 months later. So I think it just took a toll on all of us, especially on young adults, on kids, on teenagers.
Yeah.
Not being able to do things that they usually would do at this age, doing sports, going out, socializing with their friends, going to school, and face-to-face schooling, instead of being online.
So is your son online school, is he?
No, but he was. And then obviously he's finished school. I'm glad he finished school before all that happened, actually. He finished school he was 18.
Yep.
Okay. So basically, but I'm just saying for other kids as well, I feel for them.
Yeah.
I really do. I feel for all of the parents having to, do homeschooling and with working at work. I mean, it's a mess.
Yes. So in terms of your life, when you say it's a mess, can you tell me a bit more specifically what you're seeing, and what's affecting your family the most? What is your son missing out on that he normally would be doing?
Okay. But first of all, it will be, basically doing a course. He wanted to do a course, going to TAFE. So it's basically only online. Everything's online. Okay. So my son is a still, what do you call it? Is an only child. So for him, it would have been good for him to socialize, to have face-to-face contact with other kids of his age, because he doesn't have a brother or sister at home, and that's something that has affected him, I would say. Absolutely.
So I'm hearing you tell me that he's feeling isolated during this time.
Yes, and not being able to see his friends or, going out like a 20-year-old would do. Going to let's say, even to the pub, let's say, that having a get together, celebrating their, their birthdays, or going to the park or to the cinema,
Yeah.
even.
So he's missing out on all those normal activities that you
Absolutely.
do.
That that's what you all would want to do. And then with his license, he had his learners, passed his learners, he's done his hours and all of that. So he had his, as soon as he turned 18, I think, when did he get his, just trying to think, when he got his learners. So we've done 120 hours or more now. And he booked for his P's. He booked his P's, and they had to cancel it. That was early last year.
Wow.
Okay, early last year. He was booked up in, I think, in February.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, after he turned 19. He turned 19 last year in February, and he was all booked up, all excited to go on his voice P's, and it was cancelled. Okay, you had to wait until the end of the year, and missing out on practicing as well.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't practice. Yep. All this time, it was illegal to do that.
Wow.
In Victoria. Yep. You couldn't have an L plate on your car or going for a drive with your, someone being on an L plate. So yeah, it missed out on all that, I would say. So it missed practice. So yeah, it just put a big gap.
So do you feel like because he's missed out on those things that it's contributed to his confidence and who he wants to become as a young man in any way?
Big time.
And
Absolutely.
how does that present? How do you see that in your son in the last couple of years? Like, can you tell me how you've seen it?
Well, feeling frustrated, frustration of
So he's
not being
being
able to.
frustrated. Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Very much. Not being
Okay.
able to move freely or to do things that a normal person would do at this age, especially. Not being very restricted,
Mm.
very, very restricted. And although he knows a little bit about, the coronavirus, and if I may mention,
Yes.
also about the new world order, if I may say that word, Lisa, if you allow me
Yep.
to.
I've heard of it. Yep. Can you tell me a little bit about what you know about that, and is that creating anxiety for your son?
Is creating anxiety for my son and also for the family, the whole family, for myself.
And
Because
are you and your family on the same page in terms of where things are at with the restrictions, the lockdowns, and particularly the vaccines? So can you tell me a little bit about your experience with and your thoughts on the vaccines, because that seems to be the topic of the day at the moment.
look, tell me about it, Lisa. Now, yes, absolutely. So, look, it's totally atrocious. I'm very sad what's happening. Very, very sad.
So
Okay.
have you and your family, are you supportive of the vaccinations, or are you pro-choice? What are your feelings about the
Pro-choice, definitely
vaccinations?
pro-choice,
Okay.
for
Okay.
sure, for sure.
Okay.
None of us has had the vaccine as yet.
Okay. Yep.
Yep,
So you're all on the same page in terms of being a family with these vaccines,
that's
with
right.
none of you
That's right.
having taken them as yet, including your son, who's now 20, yourself and your partner.
That's right. That's right.
Yes. And I think from that perspective, that's good, because that's supportive that your whole family are on the same page about that, the vaccination. I happen to know of quite a few families that are on different sides of this argument. So you've
I
either
see.
got one parent that is for and one parent that's against, which is creating conflicts and issues
That's good.
in the family because parents aren't on the same page. And the interesting thing about that, from my perspective, is I work with families and I'm constantly working to help them get on the same page for the sake of their children. It's really important that we don't create conflict and arguments in front of our children because
Of
that can
course.
affect their health, mental health, and well-being. But
Sure.
this topic, this situation with vaccines, especially, which is frustrating because it comes under the guise of health, is creating a multitude of mental health issues in families.
For sure. For sure. I haven't seen anything like it. I don't think we were expecting this to happen, and it happened so fast. And all of a sudden, we were in the middle of a pandemic, as they say, as they call it. And here we are. Here we are. I still can't believe we're still in the same, And now we're talking about the vaccine, which is supposed to be the thing to save us or to give us back our freedom.
But you obviously
I
don't
don't.
feel that way,
I
Marjorie.
don't buy it. I don't buy it. No,
Okay,
I
can you
don't.
tell
Personally,
me?
Lisa,
Yeah, can you tell me the reasons why you don't buy it? Can you tell me what your reasons are for not buying it, Marjorie?
okay. First of all, is because is the government. Unfortunately, I can't say that we do trust them,
You don't, so you
especially
don't
after what
trust
they've
the
done,
government.
what they're doing, what they're doing. They actually came up, just now they're actually bluntly lying to our faces, and
Okay.
it's they
Can you
think
tell me
they really
how? Yeah.
they
So when
think
you
we're so silly. They think we're stupid. I don't know what they think about us, all of us, and the only one who knows everything. I've done my research, Lisa.
yeah, where
It's not
do you
something
do
I'm
you?
just
So
sorry.
Marjorie, you mentioned you've done your research, and the purpose for this platform is to let people know out there who haven't got a voice. So the program's called You're the Voice because it's about people using their voice to talk about their experiences and to also share in the knowledge that a lot of people don't have out there who may be suffering from fear and anxiety due to a multitude of issues that have come since the pandemic started, if that makes sense. So, what I'd like to know is where are you getting your information from, Marjorie, that perhaps you could help others and point them in the right direction about why you're not trusting the government right now?
Okay. Look, I used to watch Channel 9, Channel 7, Channel 10.
Which is all
Okay.
mainstream media.
The
Yeah.
mainstream media. Okay. Look, Lisa, I will come to the point where I will let you guys know where I get my information from. There's a lot of different avenues, different resources. I would say, on Facebook, basically, I do use Facebook, and there's a lot of good pages and bad pages as well. You just have to know, obviously, and for yourself, you got to, common sense does kick in. I mean, you have to have some common sense as well, knowing what you're reading. And
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like
there's a lot
you
out there. There's a lot of information out there. Some are fake news, oh, of course. But mainly last year, I spoke to a few people. We just had a conversation, sharing information.
yeah. Are these
Okay.
people you know
That's
and
how we
trust?
all,
Are these
yeah,
people
oh,
you know and trust?
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we just give each other information, and then when we actually debating things, we thought a lot of things didn't make sense, Lisa,
Yeah.
to start with.
Like what? What do you think didn't make sense? Feel free to
How
speak your mind. This is a free place to
a
speak
lot of
your
things
mind.
didn't make sense, Lisa, because, okay, they contradicted, the government always contradicting what they say on telly. One day they're saying one thing, the next day something else, and then it goes on and on and on and on. Until they really started to really restrict us in regards to not seeing our family, not being able to socialize or go and see anybody, visit. They even tell you how many people you can have in your own home, and that a virus so deadly. But I'm sorry, I haven't seen people dying on the road or on the street. And then the data as well, when I've read the data, how many people die of the flu every year, which, Lisa, I didn't know about. I was ignorant to that. I never really followed that. I didn't know.
You didn't know about the people dying from cold and flu on an annual basis. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I thought, wow, really? So what's the big deal about this one? What's the difference? And then again, when I found out about the survival rate of coronavirus, which is 99.97%.
Yes.
I thought to myself, what's the big deal then? Why are they being so... Why are they acting like this? What's going on? It didn't make sense to me, Lisa.
Yeah. And so you had a lot of questions. You had a lot of questions. It sounds like you had a lot of questions.
A lot of doubts. A lot. Because I think, I'm a critical thinker.
Yeah.
Okay. As well. And unfortunately, not many people are, but I am. And I can't help it.
Yeah.
And I had to find out more. I had to dig deep. I really had to dig deep.
Yeah. And how would you say...
a lot of information. Sorry?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask you the question. How would you say that the lockdowns have affected you in a personal way? Like, for example, have they stopped you in terms of your work, or have they affected you in other ways? In your own lifestyle?
Yes, absolutely. You can't even go further than 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers from your home. I like the beach, even though in winter I can't swim, obviously, in Melbourne. But I like to go and smell the nice sea breeze, and to looking at the beach or at the sea relaxes me. Going out for dinner, going out, on a weekend after work, on Friday night, meeting up with friends.
So what I'm hearing you tell me, Marjorie, is you're missing a lot of our reason for living. You're missing connections. You're missing relationships. You're missing your meaning in life, the things, getting in touch with nature that just make you feel good, those positive emotions. You're missing our reasons for living, because it's not enough just to survive. And the thing about the measures they're taking under the guise of health right now is all about surviving physically. But in my point of view, it's much more important that we look after our mental health first and foremost, and that we have reasons to live and get up in the morning, because this is the reason why we are facing a mental health epidemic in terms of the depression, the suicides, the self-harming, and not to mention the division that families, friends, colleagues, neighbours are having because of the vaccinated, the unvaccinated, the masked, the unmasked, the lockdowns, the ones that don't want lockdowns, to the ones that support the government. So what you're telling me is basically that you understand that everything that really matters in life has been ripped away from us under the
For sure.
guise of public health.
Which doesn't make sense at all, because health, not just physical, is only also mental health. Very
Well,
important.
mental health, from my perspective, is number one, is priority. I've been hashtagging take care of your mental health first for months now, and this platform, You're the Voice, is for people who want to and need to talk about how this pandemic has affected their mental health.
That's right. That's right. We were saying earlier how things didn't make sense. I mean, if they really cared about us, Lisa, like they say, they're keeping us safe, like they always say this, they will take more care of the mental health of kids and listen also to what we have to say, instead of just making their own decisions, and that's it. There's no overweight. There's a lot of scientists, a lot of doctors, a lot of professionals also that I also read about that wanted to actually voice, their opinion, and they didn't want a bar of it.
Who didn't want a bar of it?
The government didn't want a bar of it. They didn't want to know what they were talking about, what they had to say. They only went by what, their own.
Yeah. So you're saying they wanted to censor that information?
Yes, and that's what I'm hearing as well. A lot of doctors and professionals are being censored.
Yes, you're right. And mental health professionals also. A lot of professionals who are not 100% in line with the government restrictions and lockdowns have also been censored and discredited. A lot of them have been discredited, Marjorie.
So reading about all of this doesn't make sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing you tell me is that you're a critical thinker. You're somebody who most likely uses your judgment based on your natural instincts and intuition. And it sounds to me, Marjorie, that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that almost from the beginning you knew something wasn't right and it didn't make sense to you. There was not common sense to you.
Something wasn't right, something fishy, if I may say, Lisa.
Well, I don't think you're alone, Marjorie. I think quite a lot of people felt the very same way from the very beginning. And now the division is even, I think, more palpable than what it was from the beginning, Marjorie. And what's really clear after speaking to you today is that the fact that it's been very difficult, and to this day we still haven't been able to resume our lives in the way we were used to before the pandemic. And now there is a huge division, and particularly in Victoria, with the strategy of divide and conquer, and just innately feels wrong to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I really appreciate your time, and I really thank you for sharing your story with this audience today and being part of the very first program,
Your very first show, Lisa. I'm honoured. Thank you, Lisa.
You're very welcome, and thank you for being part of You're the Voice and for being brave enough to use your voice in this fight, Marjorie.
Thank you,
Take
Lisa.
care of yourself.
You too, Lisa. We'll talk soon.
We will.